Now that you've explored a range of different summarization techniques, let's move on to how can we load in documents and text splitting. We've got an example here using another document loader, and we have this package called Beautiful Soup. So you'll need to install Beautiful Soup when using this. We then import requests, and we've got this README file from a GitHub repository. We make a get URL to get the README. We then get the text and we save that locally in a readme.md file, which we then load in. So if I run all these bits of code, what you'll see is we generate these docs, and these documents are LangChain documents. You can also get these LangChain documents directly by just typing in langchain.schema import document, and you can create documents just like this. So we can have a document here, and we can define its page content. You can also add something called metadata. So that is how you can make documents inside Python, and you'll generally have a list of these LangChain documents. Now, these loaders also provide us a nice way for us to be able to automatically get LangChain documents directly from different file sources like Markdown, GitHub, PDFs, any kind of source you can think of, Notion databases. What we need to do though is we need to make sure that the documents are not too large. And to do that, we can use a text splitter. So you'll see this document content is quite large. It might not necessarily all fit into the large language model. So what we can do is use something called a recursive text splitter. So what we can do is use something called a recursive character text splitter, which will split based on a series of characters recursively, making sure that the splits adhere to specific things. And those things are the chunk size, the amount of overlap, the length function, and is it going to be separated or not. So let's show you a chunk size of 300. And what we're doing here is we make our text splitter, then we take our documents in that we load from the README file. We can then split those documents into chunks. And so you'll now see that we've got all these different documents that have got chunks, and we can also increase the overlap, which will mean that we have more documents, right? So if I then look at the length of these final documents, you can see I have 182. As soon as I start reducing the overlap for the chunk size, we then start getting less and less documents, right? Because the overlap will cause the window chunks to have different amounts of overlap, right? And therefore what we're doing really is, as we increase the overlap, there's a larger number of chunks that we need to create. However, we're less likely to lose information. I find that, a small overlap is good. And then what we can do is we can make a model. So using the chat OpenAI, loading on our load summarize chain, and then we could do a chain type of MapReduce on the input documents that we had. And I'm not going to necessarily show this because it will take a while to run. But essentially what we're doing here is we're using our input docs that we got from here. And then we then put that as the variable in our input docs. And this will use a MapReduce summary. So just what we learned in the previous lesson, it will use a MapReduce specific type of summary to create individual summaries on each document. And then what it will do is, after it's made the summaries, it will then summarize those summaries inside of a reduce step. Cool. I'll see you all in the next one.